I was born and raised in Connecticut, in a town just outside of Hartford. My father was literally a rocket scientist. Very, 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 very smart man. And my mother was a school teacher. Always had a job. Whether it was mowing somebody's lawn or shoveling a driveway or a paper route, or always wanted to contribute. Always wanted to work. Always wanted to earn money. You only need to know two things about roofing. I said, all right, what's that? He goes, water flows downhill. Okay, that makes sense. Water flows downhill. And he goes, you flow downhill. Don't fall off the roof.
What is your role as a national account manager at DaVinci?
So over the last several years, we've all been watching all the consolidation happening in the roofing space, with private equity coming in, acquiring brands, large and small. We've seen mergers. What DaVinci didn't quite have was one person to be a liaison with the corporate side of these massive, private equity funds and these massive companies. So, some of the largest roofing contractors in the country might have branches in 7, 8, 9, 10 states. So my role specifically is to make sure that from a corporate private equity level that their needs are being met down to the local branch.
So even I have one of my clients in Colorado. He installs DaVinci as well, and he was discussing the same issue with me last week, that they don't find guys who can do it correctly.
Asphalt's a relatively simple product to install, all things considered, and DaVinci can be a very simple product to install. And yes, there are some subtle nuances, but what we do is not only do we offer sales training to the actual roofing contractor, so we're going to train them on exactly how our product is made.
So let's just say you are an outsider and you are looking at the stuff that DaVinci is doing right now. What are the things that you feel could be improved or could be enhanced further in order to meet that lag or that gap that is currently there?
In my honest opinion, the only thing that DaVinci really lacks is the ability to produce more material.
Or the new products that are being launched by using rubber and by using other materials, do you feel that they have really the durability and the capacity to actually compete with something like DaVinci?
As you kind of said, recycled material versus raw virgin material. The difference is, if something is produced with raw material, it will inherently be a stronger product with a longer longevity than if you take, a tire and grind it up and recycle it somehow.
Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Roofing Millionaires podcast, the only roofing podcast where we don't promote anyone and we don't sell you anything. In this episode, we are sitting down with Tom Dring, who is the National Account Manager at DaVinci Roofscapes, and he shares how being the cheapest bid can shut your roofing business and why you should encourage homeowners to use premium roof materials. Not only this, he also shares how you can train yourself and your team to use those premium materials and how it is easier to sell those premium materials if you care about the homeowner. Do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want us to bring more roofing experts like this on the show who can help you learn new things so you can serve the homeowners better. Let's dive in.
Good morning, Tom. Welcome to the Roofing Millionaires podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today. How are you feeling today and what's going on in your life these days?
First off, I'm feeling very blessed and honored to actually have been invited to this. So thank you. This is, I've heard a lot of great things about you and the podcast. And so again, just thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. And what's going on in my life? Oof, that's I don't know, how long do we have?
Oh, as long as you are available.
No, I'm incredibly blessed. I've got no major complaints whatsoever in life. I've got a great job, a great life, and most certainly been blessed to to be a part of a lot of the things I've done and been involved in. So yeah. What's going on in your life?
Oh, yes, it's been an amazing year for me, and I would say this that this year has been life changing for me because I set a goal that I'm gonna help some roofers doing their branding, and I had some earning goals as well. And I thought that I would achieve those by November or December, but I have achieved like in the seventh month of 2025. So this year has been really rewarding for me. Thank you so much for sharing that. We already had Thomas Salzman here, and I know he
Yep.
is a friend of yours from
Yeah.
DaVinci Roofscapes, and I know quite a little bit about DaVinci because I had a conversation with him. So we will dive into that. But before that, let's just discuss about your background and where are you from, how was your childhood, so the audience just have a context about who you are and what you are doing.
Sure. Listen, I was born and raised in Connecticut, in a town just outside of Hartford. My father was literally a rocket scientist. Very, 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 very smart man. Um, and my mother was a school teacher, and
Okay.
again, grew up in this little town. Pretty humble, modest living. I mean, again, my folks both worked very hard, and they were blessed. And um, um, high school and college, and just kind of a normal all-American childhood, and you know, always had a job. Whether it was mowing somebody's lawn or shoveling a driveway or a paper route or just you know, always wanted to contribute, always wanted to work, always wanted to earn money. Um, and school was not. I didn't like school. I thought it was boring. Um, and truthfully, having grown up being dyslexic, reading was obviously very, very difficult for me and still is today. But, I found that talking with people was much easier for me than reading a textbook or reading much of anything. So I learned to essentially talk. And that's kind of helped me become successful in sales and, successful in life. Um, I think I was roughly about 21 years old.
Hmm.
So I also, I married my first wife in college. And we had a kid a year or so after we got married, and I was about 21, 22 years old. I didn't have a job. And a
Hmm.
friend of mine in Brockton, Massachusetts said, "Hey, why don't you come roof for me?" I'm like, "I don't know anything about roofing." And his immediate response was, "That's perfect. We'll teach you." Um, so it was a second generational roofing company, a company called Moberg Roofing. And again, the gentleman name was Dick Moberg, and I can't begin to thank him enough to this day, almost 30 years later. He took me under his wing. He taught me everything I needed to know about roofing and, asphalt and cedar and slate, TPO, EPDM, commercial, residential. I mean, just everything. And, the first lesson he ever gave me, Muhammad, was the first day I showed up on a Monday, and it was early in the morning, and we get to this house, and he says, you only need to know two things about roofing. I said, all right, what's
Hmm.
that? He goes, water flows downhill. Okay, that makes sense. Water flows downhill. And he goes, you flow
Yeah.
downhill. Don't fall off the roof. So we got to ripping the roof off, and then the foreman comes over. He goes, you see all that stuff on the ground? I said, uh-huh. He goes, put it in the dumpster. Okay. Couple hours later, he says, you see all that material over there? And I was, uh-huh. He goes, put it up on the roof. I said, okay. So I did that for a couple years. And that was, it was, I really enjoyed it because you show up onto a job in the morning, and, you had this old crappy beat up roof, and at the end of the day, it'd be beautiful and pristine, and the yard would be picked up. And, again, it was a nice feeling, a sense of accomplishment, on a daily basis of seeing what you did, what you created, and what, the progress you made on that roof. And that was incredibly gratifying. Held, throughout my career, I've held various jobs in retail, everything from selling sporting goods to suits to, J. Crew and, random retail places. And again, another man who was very impactful in my life, a guy named Ron Lindstruth. He was out of West Hartford, and I was working for Joseph A. Banks, a suit store selling suits. And he said to me one day, he said, Tommy, he said, how many people have walked in the front door today? How many people have, walked in, and how many, I said, oh, probably, 50 people have walked in our front door. And he basically said, you shouldn't be in retail. You should be in outside sales, because if, you can see as many people in a day as you want in outside sales versus retail, where you're waiting for that person to come in the front door. And that kind of got my wheels turning, about basically life, my ability. And so it wasn't long after that I found, a small startup tech company called C Projects, the letter C Projects. And Mohammed, I'm not going to guess your age, but my gut tells me you're a little younger than me. So there was a time in life when we didn't have the internet.
Huh?
And this company was a lead service for the commercial construction industry. They were the first company to put the blueprints and plans and specifications of commercial projects online and make them available for access, through a subscription service. And the problem, and that's commonplace today. I mean, everyone is putting their blueprints and specs online, but we were the first in the world to do it. The problem was dial-up internet was pretty much the only internet available to the average consumer. And so we're trying to shovel these massive files through dial-up. And we were just ahead of our time, and we couldn't quite figure out the adoption rate for high-speed internet quite wasn't there yet. And so again, it was a great idea. It was a great company. Again, it's commonplace today, but didn't quite work out. And I've had other careers selling software into the amusement industry. So for like arcades or amusement parks, was again very, very fortunate. I was able to travel the world, to literally around the world selling software to these amusement parks and arcades and whatnot. And that was an absolute epic journey for me. Been to some places, just amazing places, amazing people that I got to interact with, and still very good friends with many of those people today. And then, again, fast forward. Wow, you're taking me down memory lane, Mohammed. Fast forward a little bit, and I worked as an outside salesperson for Beacon at the time. Did that for a couple of years, and then was an outside sales guy for SRS up in North Haven, Connecticut, Metro Roofing Supply. And again, I have to give a huge personal shout out to a guy named Derek Depkowski, who is, again, a great mentor and a great friend to me. And he was the one who really taught me that no business is better than bad business.
Okay.
He had this, and I have a picture of it somewhere, and I'll send it to you later, but he had this picture of a wooden box on his on one of his shelves in his office, and it was basically a Sears Roebuck. And again, you might be a little too young for that, but Sears Roebuck was like the first mega store, in the one of the anchor stores in every mall in America, and you could go and buy everything from tires to dishwashers to clothes to anything you wanted. And on that, and I asked him why he kept that box up there. And on that box, it also said lowest prices guaranteed. And again, if you fast forward a couple decades, Sears Roebuck went out of business. They went bankrupt because they weren't making any money. And Derek told me, he said he kept that up on his shelf to remind him never to be the cheapest, ever.
Wow.
You sell on value, sell on quality, sell on service, sell on relation, and but if you're simply going to be the cheapest anything, that's not good business. And he taught me that. And again, I'm still very good friends with Derek today, and I thank him every time I see him for his influence on me and him taking me under his wing and teaching me an awful lot about distribution and again the selling side of roofing. And I owe Derek an awful lot. With the exception of the couple of years I lived in Massachusetts, again, I lived in Connecticut my whole life, and my now current wife, she and I had thought about moving south for many years. We talked about it and we thought about it and we discussed it, and but we never really made an action on it until we did. And almost 7 years ago now, we actually it's probably closer to 8 years. We were in South Carolina for a wedding, and it was beautiful, and it was late October, early November, and it was still gorgeous out. We were driving home, up 95 all the way, through New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and New York, and I turned to my wife and I said, either we move south or we never talk about it again. And so we got home and we're like, I said to her, the first person who gets a job wins.
Okay.
So we both started applying for various positions, and she's a little more specialized. I'm in sales. I can sell anything, so I wasn't too worried. But she works in non-for-profits and in museums. So ultimately, she was offered a position at a museum in Sarasota, and she was also simultaneously made an offer for a museum in Jacksonville, here in Jacksonville. And well, where do you want to move to? And she said, I think I like the organization in Jacksonville best. I said, well, let's go to Jacksonville then. So about 7 years ago, we picked up everything, the two dogs, and we moved to Jacksonville. And again, somebody else who was very, very influential in my life, a guy named Alan York. Alan had worked for Eagleview for many years, and he called me up one day, and I don't know, it was a Wednesday early afternoon, and he said, well, what are you doing down in Jacksonville? And I said, Alan, I'm sitting on the beach. He goes, Tommy, it's Wednesday at 2:00. What are you doing on the beach? And I said, well, I haven't quite found anything yet, Alan. And he said, well, you want a job? I said, with Eagleview? Said, yeah, Alan, it better pay me enough to get off the beach. And wound up at Eagleview for just about 6 years. And again, some of the best people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And again, arguably the best tech. Some of the most brilliant minds I've ever encountered were over at Eagleview. And I worked the Southeast region, essentially, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee, and worked that for six years. And again, I think I was pretty successful in my time there, and again, made an awful lot of friends at Eagleview, made an awful lot of friends in the roofing industry. And as careers go and as time goes, I kind of felt my time had come, and I reached that plateau. And it's kind of when I started working with, or started talking to DaVinci. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. DaVinci brought me on to be the national account manager about January 1st this year. And, rather than just having a very small region, now I'm all over the country.
Amazing. And thank you so much for sharing all of that with me, because I really like guests who share this much detail with me, because now you have gave me so many points to discuss during the interview. Thank you so much for that. So let's just begin with the first thing first. What is your role as a national account manager at DaVinci?
Sure. So, you know, over the over the last several years, we've all been watching all the consolidation happening in the roofing space with private equity coming in, acquiring brands large and small. We've seen mergers, and what DaVinci didn't quite have was one person to be a liaison with the corporate side of these massive, private equity funds and these massive companies. So, some of the largest roofing contractors in the country might have branches in 7, 8, 9, 10 states. So my role specifically is to make sure that from a corporate private equity level that their needs are being met down to the local branches. So again, I've met with a couple groups, and again, Tom Sulzman, I said, all right, Tommy, I need you to go pop your head into those 3 branches in your area, because they're part of this much larger organization that we may or may not, that he may or may not know about. So my role is really just to be a liaison between the largest roofing contractors and the largest private equity funds and DaVinci's actual local reps, the guys who are the boots on the ground. My role, and again, if I'm talking to one of my coworkers, my role is actually quite simple. My role is to help them make money. That's it. So again, I'm just trying to bridge a divide that has started to take place between corporations and local reps.
Thank you. Okay, the reason I asked this question, Tom, is that Thomas was here as well, and both of you, and as a whole, DaVinci is a product that is a premium product, and you talk about not being the cheapest bid and never be the lowest price. I agree with all of that, and from a marketer perspective, as you said that your job is to make sure that the needs of the contractors and the equity guys or anyone who is a shareholder or a stakeholder, their needs are met. One thing I have noticed so far, and I think that it's my responsibility to share that with you. I see some posts on Facebook and everywhere that people find it difficult to install DaVinci because they don't have contractors or workers who can do that. Even I have one of my clients in Colorado. He installs DaVinci as well, and he was discussing the same issue with me last week, that they don't find guys who can do it correctly. And the reason I am asking that to you is because you mentioned that your first company was a great product, but it wasn't a market fit because the people were not ready for the high speed internet. So what I see from a marketer perspective is that do you feel that people are ready for this product as well? And if they are, what are you doing to solve these challenges for the contractors? Like, they cannot find good workmanship.
Actually, I appreciate that question. So DaVinci has always, and to this day, maintained that we are a best-in-class product. Again, forgive my timeline, but let's just say we were invented 20, 25 years ago. So we've been in the marketplace for quite a while. Not only, yes, we're here to sell product. I mean, we're here to sell product. We understand, again, at a very high level, we understand, and I'm looking across the street at an asphalt roof. I mean, I'm not saying asphalt, yes, there's subtle nuances to installing asphalt. You got to stagger your courses, and, you got to figure out the pitch and, what your exposure is and all that. But asphalt's a relatively simple product to install, all things considered. And DaVinci can be a very simple product to install. And yes, there are some subtle nuances. But what we do is we offer, not only do we offer sales training to, the actual roofing contractor. So we're going to train them on exactly how our product is made. We can, provide all sorts of sales collateral and install training, and we'll actually work with, either whether they're in-house crews or subcontractor crews, we'll work with the installers to teach them how to install this stuff correctly. Whether we bring a crew to Kansas City and show them a mock-up, we have mock-ups in our training facility that we can show people how to install this stuff correctly. We have a number of, I think it's about 3 or 4 installation technicians that'll go out on site and show these guys how to install this stuff. Again, it's not rocket science, but there are some very subtle nuances to, hey, how do you terminate, a valley or something along those lines, or, how do you determine your exposure? But we have our installation managers out every single solitary day doing trainings across the country. And again, it's educating the installer, it's educating the salespeople, and frankly, educating whoever wants to learn how to do this. We have our guys out there every single solitary day. Again, hands-on. They'll come and help do first installations. I mean, we work very, very hard at making sure whoever purchases and whoever installs our product knows exactly how to do it well. Because the last thing we want is to have an unhappy contractor, and more importantly, an unhappy homeowner. So we work with anybody who wants to learn how to do this stuff and do it well.
Yes, and I really appreciate that, because you just said that the last thing that you want is an unhappy homeowner and an unhappy contractor, and I agree with that. I also feel that if the right product is in the wrong hands, like if you give me the latest model of smartphones, the iPhone 16 Pro Max or whatever it is, and I do not know a single thing about phones, I won't know how to use that. I will
Right.
I will put that anywhere, or I don't know the use case of it. So do you feel that like if you are an outsider, I believe that at times when you are an outsider, you look at the company and the things that you are doing, and you feel that, okay, let's just come with a different approach. So let's just say you are an outsider and you are looking at the stuff that DaVinci is doing right now. What are the things that you feel could be improved or could be enhanced further in order to meet that lag or that gap that is currently there?
Wow. One of the, so everyone knows, like, so, okay. In my honest opinion, the only thing that DaVinci really lacks is the ability to produce more material. Now, we sell 100% of the product that we produce every year. So, when demand is high, and it is for DaVinci product, lead times on our product can be daunting. But Westlake, who is our parent company, has made massive capital investments into DaVinci. June, July, we've installed 20% more capacity. So basically, we've brought 2 more machines into our plant so that we'll be able to produce 20% more material. In the next couple of years, we're going to be adding a couple more machines. So again, we have to, and we are increasing capacity because the demand is there, and we just need to be able to produce this stuff faster. And again, DaVinci leadership, Westlake leadership has seen fit to make, and I mean massive capital investments into our plant, so that we can start producing this stuff even faster. And Yeah, it's gonna be pretty good for us when we start pumping. When we get these machines fully online again, it takes a minute once you get a several thousand ton machine, off a tractor trailer or a train, and it's got to be put up and wired and basically set up so that it can produce. But once these two machines come on, our capacity for production is going to go through the roof. And we're really excited about that. Um, Again, I think I work with, in my opinion, like I work at DaVinci with some of the most dedicated salespeople, some of the most dedicated management and leadership, and and the guys who run the machine, the actual people who physically quality control and check the product are amazing. The technical people who may come up with the recipe for our product are so dedicated to make sure that nothing goes out that shouldn't go out. Uh, and again, like there's some people literally in our science lab that are just so like Muhammad, like these guys are smart, and I mean scary smart, and they love what they do, and they're like, again, they're the best people I've ever seen. Who get so excited over resin and get so excited over the differences between this chemical and that chemical, and again, they're amazingly and fascinating. They're just brilliant people, and again, everyone at DaVinci takes massive pride in what we do. So again, I guess the long-winded answer, but to answer your question, I think we're solving the one problem that we really have, which is adding capacity to our plant. Because the more we make, the more we sell. I mean, that's just it.
Yes, yes, you are right, and I agree that if you are making sales, it means that you are delivering value, and all the companies have problems that you have to deal with all the time in businesses, and you have to constantly improve. Speaking of the technical stuff that you just mentioned, that you guys have a great quality control, and you know the technical stuff far better than me because I don't have the knowledge. So I
Know
see
about
some.
that. I don't know about
Okay.
that.
Okay, so let's just keep it basic.
Yeah.
I see some stuff that there are other things like there are Euroshield products like the rubber shingles that they are out there, and I don't know much about them, but I feel that they are a competitor of DaVinci, or they can be a competitor of DaVinci, or the new products that are being launched by using rubber and by using other materials. Do you feel that they have really the durability and the capacity to actually compete with something like DaVinci?
So one of the life lessons that one of my mentors taught me is don't ever knock your competition. And listen, like again, there's a gentleman at Euroshield that I would consider a dear friend. Okay, there are some people at Brava that I consider very dear friends, and this the sun shines on us all. Yes, I'm competitive, and I want every single roof out there to go DaVinci. But I also know that that's not quite practical, and we can't even, we couldn't produce every single roof because our capacity is maxed out. But what I will tell you is, there are qualities about DaVinci that I firmly believe in my heart make us the best product. Again, very similar to when I was at Eagleview. Eagleview is often imitated, but never reproduced. I mean, DaVinci is imitated, but never reproduced. And what makes our product stand out above the rest, the main difference comes down to really kind of one key component, as you kind of said, recycled material versus raw virgin material. DaVinci DaVinci has what's called a rail spur in the back of our plant, where literal trains will push giant cargo tanks full of raw material, and we'll offload that, the raw material into silos. We take that raw material, we churn it, we chew it up, we bake it, we spit it out, we press it, we dye it. And, the difference between us is we're using raw material versus everyone else who are using basically recycled material. Now, the difference is if something is produced with raw material, it will inherently be a stronger product with a longer longevity than if you take, a tire and grind it up and recycle it somehow. Just chemically, the product breaks down when in the recycling process. So that's why they take plastic and make water bottles, and then they take that water bottle and make something else that's not quite as important. I just, if you want something that's going to last and be durable, DaVinci's got a class 4 hail impact, class A fire rating. We're Miami-Dade wind rated. We basically, if hail hits an asphalt roof, it's going to leave a pretty good, ding to it. Well, if hail hits us, it might ding it a little bit, but at 120 degrees, our product literally kind of self-heals itself so that there's no evidence of that damage or hail mark on it. And again, not too many other people can say that. We've got some of the highest, best specs of any synthetic product, in the marketplace. And again, we stand by our product. So it's, again, yes, competition is out there. I think competition's healthy. Again, yes. when I was at Eagleview, there were some aspects about Eagleview that no one had, and I forget, somebody famous once said, "Hey, monopolies are bad unless you have one." So, what I love, would I love to have a monopoly on synthetic roofing? Absolutely. I mean, who wouldn't? But that's just not the case, and I do think competition's good. Again, I would never knock anybody's product, because I just don't think that's very nice. And again, I truly, deeply love and respect some of my friends who happen to work for other roofing manufacturers.
Yes, and I think that you answered my question perfectly, because the reason I asked this was I had questions about like using the raw materials and the recycled materials, and you discussed that, and I 100% agree with you that even the Brava and the EuroShield and DaVinci, you guys have, all the companies have their own audience or a set of people that you want to serve. And if you go in the race of knocking down the competition, you stop improving your products, because now your goal is just to knock down the competition, and now you are not focusing on actually delivering value to the audience or the group of people that you want to serve. Now, when Thomas was here, I know that DaVinci is definitely a premium material or a premium product for premium homeowners, I would say. I asked Thomas that what are the homeowners who should be looking for DaVinci products. Now, I want to rephrase that question for you, and I want to ask you, what are the homeowners, or who are the type of people that you feel should not look for DaVinci products?
Should not look?
Yes.
I think, I don't, somebody with a flat roof. If you've got a flat roof, you don't want my product. Right? I think, okay. What's the average statistic says, most households don't have $1,000 in savings or their checking account. They're one,
Yes.
car breakdown away from, falling under, and people living paycheck to paycheck. I think that there is a case. Again, I'm looking at the roof across the street from me. There is a case, I think, for us on every single solitary roof, that the sun shines on. Again, so I live in Jacksonville, Florida. The average lifespan of a roof down here is maybe 10, maybe 12 years, maybe. Every 10, it's just round numbers. Every 10 years, you got to replace that roof. Whether it's through from a hurricane or hail or whatever, sun blazing down on it. There's actually a financial case and an ROI for a homeowner on any house to take a good hard look at us, because our warranty is 50 years. So your ROI, if a homeowner put us on their house today, they wouldn't have to even think about replacing us for decades. Again, I think the average homeowner just might be a little short-sighted, if you will, to say, well, I just can't afford a DaVinci roof, when in many cases, we're going to last longer than 4 or 5 asphalt roofs. So I think it could go on every single solitary roof out there. Now, that being said, is I live in an HOA, and I couldn't put it on my house even if I wanted to because of our HOA bylaws. But I'm sure I could figure out a way to get around that. Again, the application for DaVinci's, whether it's shake or slate, it's for the homeowner who's going to think ahead decades, not someone who just say, I just need a new roof today. I don't care what goes up. I don't care who puts it up there. I just need a roof. It's going to last longer than just about anything else out there. I didn't answer your question at all, but that's the answer I got.
I think you answered that beautifully. The reason I asked this is because I wanted to know that who are the specific people that you want to target, but you answered that beautifully, dodging my question, and you just said that I want to, because everyone has a potential eventually to work with DaVinci or to have that on the roof. So I agree with you. You also mentioned that most people, they have $1,000 in savings or more than that, and they cannot afford DaVinci. Now, the roofing contractors, they have their programs, they have their financing programs or all those stuff. I want to ask, does DaVinci have something like that too, to support this group of people, and so they can have these long-lasting products as well?
DaVinci does not specifically. Again, however, most roofing contractors should have some sort of credit, through whether Green Sky or any number of the credit companies out there should be able to offer their homeowners terms, whether 12 months, 18, 24 months, or whatever, again, just like buying a car. Very few people go and write a check for a brand new car, but they'll either lease it or finance it. Most good contractors should have very similar programs like that to offer their homeowners. I've got contractors in Georgia and Texas who only do insurance work, and if a storm goes through and they want to put the roof through insurance, they're going to say, all right, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, we're going to get you $50,000 for your roof, and we'll be able to get your roof paid for. But for a little bit more, we can put on a DaVinci roof and basically, get, 3/4 of your roof covered by the insurance company. Basically, they're going to upgrade that homeowner to a premium roof. So again, it's not such a big hit on the wallet or the checkbook. Or again, if the homeowner decides to go in that direction, they can then, again, financing is always an option. But yeah, I mean, we are more expensive than an asphalt roof, but the return on investment comes, again, very similar to many solar programs. Yeah, it's not cheap to put solar on your roof, but if it's done properly and installed properly, you'll start getting a return on investment down the road.
Yes, and I agree. Back in the interview, you also mentioned about you said one sentence that you can now sell anything, and I know that you were not bragging about that. You were saying it because as a salesman, I believe too. Like once you understand the customers, you know that what they want to feel, and if you are delivering value, you can literally sell anything to them. So like what is the core of selling to you? Because most people they do selling the wrong way. I feel that
Yep.
most people
Yep.
nowadays are too much pressurizing the prospects or the homeowners, or in any field you see there is objection handling. Like you are looking at the prospect as a robot, and now whatever they throw at you, you just have to prepare an answer for that, and
Yeah.
you just have to anyway
Yeah.
you have to make your sale. You don't have to
So,
focus on what their actual condition is. So what is the core of selling that that you feel
so
should be
uh,
the one thing?
the again, I have to give a shout out to someone who's very dear to my heart in the roofing industry. Her name's Lisa, and Lisa Lisa taught me a very valuable lesson. She said, "Show them how much you care before how much you know." And that was it. Show them how much you care before how much you know. Yeah, right. Like that was you know, you can go in and handle any objection that the homeowner throws at you, but if the homeowner doesn't feel that you care about them, and you know, it's just it's not going to be a good sale. So I try whenever I'm sitting with anybody, and I mean, it can be you, it can be the largest contractor in the country, it can be does it, if the person sitting across from you or next to you doesn't feel that you care about them, then there's no relationship. And you know, I don't want to make one sale. I want someone to come to me year after year after year after year and want to have a relationship with me. And there's been plenty of times when I'm sitting with someone and I'm like, you know what? My product just isn't a good fit for you. And I'll be honest, like, hey, I'm not your guy, but I know someone who is, and you should go talk to that person because that person can help you out much better than I can. You know, because at the end of the at the end of the day, you and I and everyone else, we're just out here trying to feed our family, take care of ourselves, get a roof over our head, put some food on the table. And, you know, I think oftentimes we take the human element out of it and saying, hey, we're at the end of the day, we're also just people. We rather than a target or rather than, you know, a sale, we're people, you know. And I think we sometimes in sales, we take the human element out of it and just say, all right, I'm going to sell this guy so I can get another check mark on the board or get another win. But I think we need to really work hard at showing people how much we actually care about their well-being. And I think if people did that more often, they'd probably be more successful. And there's some very good salespeople out there that do care about their clients or customers. I mean, like truly from the bottom of their heart. And again, like you said, there's some guys out there that, hey, I just want to make the buck, get the check, and get out the door. Yeah, that's not me.
Perfect. And you know what? I don't share many experiences of my business with people, but I had a similar experience last month. A roofer from Texas, he just gave me a ring on my Facebook, and we are having a conversation, and I didn't even need to convince him. He told me that I want you to work on my website, and I said I don't even know you. He said I want you to work on my website. I said why? And I literally didn't know, like, he sees my videos and he sees my posts. And one thing he told me, I asked him, like, why are you reaching out to me? He said that I knew that you care about me. I watched every single video of yours. I watched every single post of yours. And you know why I contacted you? Because you were engaging with my posts constantly, even though I was not replying back to you. But you were making comments, you were making likes. And I knew this guy cares about me. And that's why I want you to work on my website. And that does pay off. Speaking of that, I think I am 25 right now. You have a lot more wisdom than me. A lot a lot of guys like me, like when we start earning money, we get like, I will tell you my personal feelings too. Now I want to just have my kids or make my family, because now I am earning, and now just I want to be in a relationship and make my family. But you have been into that. So I want to ask you, what are the experiences that you learned from your first marriage that you applied to your second marriage, and what are the things that you feel people must keep in mind before getting into relationships?
Wow. Love unconditionally. Love your spouse, love your kids. And I mean unconditionally. You know, Muhammad, we're not perfect. Like human beings, we're not perfect. We mess up, we screw up, we fail. Love unconditionally. And again, I think that goes to, our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers, our customers. Like, love unconditionally. Um, you know, it, it's that's my biggest life lesson. Um, that I can honestly, that's helped me not only in life but in sales as well. But just love unconditionally. Even again, especially your competition, because again, at the end of the day, they're just trying to feed their families. Um, I'm in a different place financially these days versus when I was first married. I worked several jobs to try to support my family, and um, we spent every single solitary nickel that I made. Whether it was trips or movies or dinner or whatever. Now, again, financially, one of the big things that my wife and I do now, I save every single solitary nickel and dime I can find. Um, Funding my IRAs and 401ks and making sure the savings account.
Beautiful. And you know what? I think that if we just figure out the difference between our needs and our wants, a lot of stuff can be fixed, because a need is just a car, but a want, like a need is just a car, but a want, that is like, I want a Ferrari. I need a car, but I want a Ferrari.